putting the elevator away in a driving snow on October 25th. What is going on? What do you think about snow in late October?
Well, actually, it's really not my favorite thing. The winter's long enough as it is without it starting at the end of summer.
It's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Snowflakes on corn stalks and something and something.
Yeah. I mean, we worked outside every winter. I worked outside for 50 years in construction, I said, but you never really get used to it, and you never really learn to like it, you know. Some people like to play in the snow, but that's playing.
Right.
Working in it all day long is quite another thing.
It's quite another thing.
Yeah.
So, here we are anyway. We're just sort of taking care of some odds and ends today, and
Yes.
we're thankful to be done. We know a lot of people who aren't finished with their harvest and still have to deal with this, but just some odds and ends in the bad weather here, and then we might get a warm up, so we might still get some cover crops planted, hopefully this coming week.
Yeah, we just had a lovely family breakfast here this morning on Sunday, and it was lots of fun.
Yeah. So at least in that regard, the weather gives us a chance to take a break and
Yes.
focus on other matters that are also important.
Yes, and we know our priorities.
Yeah, it's important. Well, there's been a whole lot of nothing going on here. You might have noticed. I think I did one little video where I was putting some stuff away with the M right after it snowed. Just to kind of fill you in, we had about a 7-inch snowstorm in October, mid-October. Highly unusual, not a lot of fun. We had kind of really hoped to get all our cover crops seeded in and that we would have a nice long fall to do it. And instead, we got blasted with cold and snow, and did a little bit of sitting around while we waited for that to clear out. We sort of figured it would come back around to normal or something close to normal. We just weren't sure when. So here we are. Let me check the date. Oh, yeah, well, you're gonna laugh. It's Halloween. It's October 31st, and I didn't even know that. That's where I'm at in my headspace. Happy Halloween, everyone. So, anyway, it's warmed up considerably. A lot of our snow has melted, and the fields are drying out. A lot of farmers around here who didn't have their crops out are back out combining and getting stuff done. We're fortunate. We're done, and I got all the cover crops seeded into our soybean ground. So the one last thing that we really need to do, or that we wanted to do from a regenerative standpoint and for our field operations for 2020, is we wanted to get cover crops seeded into our corn stalk ground. And we were a little doubtful there, a little indecisive about whether we could actually achieve that because of the snow and the cold. You hope things are going to come around, but the weather is such an oddball these days that for all we knew, we were into winter starting on October 15th or so. But things are coming around. This week's looking really good. It's going to be in the 60s. Things are drying out. Again, snow's gone except for in the shady north-facing spots. So, ta-da! The drill is still out and ready to go. It's got some cereal rye in the seed box, but it is not calibrated properly for the corn stalk ground. We're going to put the cereal rye on the corn stalks quite a bit heavier, 60 pounds of cereal rye, as opposed to the 45 pounds or so that we were putting on the soybean ground. That was a combination of cereal rye and hairy vetch. Into the corn stalks, we're just doing cereal rye. And the reason for that is cereal rye, we've learned this year in particular, is great for planting soybeans green into the standing cereal rye the next spring. So it's late in the season now. I doubt we'll get any growth on that cereal rye that we're going to plant in the corn stalk ground. It probably won't come up, but it will lie dormant in the residue and hopefully down at the soil surface if I can get this thing to cut through all that residue. And it'll just wait, and then when spring comes, it'll come up, and we can plant the beans into it, and then we can let those grow side by side, kind of like we did this year. And barring any freakish weather events, that should all work really nicely. And having the rye growing in the spring helps make a good soil structure that you can get in there with equipment. So if we do have a really wet spring, having a growing cover crop really helps to be able to still get in the field at a decent time. And as our soil structure is getting better and we're infiltrating water better, this all just goes hand in hand with keeping that system going so that we get better and better water infiltration, better soil structure. We can get in even during adverse conditions to get our planting done. But with that said, I'm doing some modifications to the drill because You know, this thing, as I've voiced my concerns with it in the past, it's not the equivalent of a really nice, heavy, modern no-till drill that puts a lot of weight on the seed planting units, the seed discs, where it'll really force those into the ground. This kind of relies on the coulter cart in front to cut through the residue and make a path. And then it's almost like a regular grain drill behind it. It does have heavier down pressure springs, but it's still got the standard grain drill kind of pivot system on it, whereas on a modern no-till drill, the brackets for the seed disc openers are mounted right to the boxes in the frame, and it really puts all the pressure down. It's like the wheels on the drill retract up and the whole weight of the drill goes down on the seed disc openers. This one doesn't do that. The wheels are stationary. When you engage the hydraulics, these lever arms push down and push the seed disc openers into the ground. They have fairly limited travel, so they don't put a lot of pressure on the seed disc openers. I might modify that too, just kind of basic physics to get that reconfigured to maybe push harder. But we don't want to overload the system that this was designed for either. So instead, what I'm doing is this. These seed disc openers have depth bands on them, and I believe these are set for 3/4 of an inch or so, but they build up a lot of mud on them, and they don't penetrate into the ground as well as they ought to, and most of the seed that we're planting is not that depth sensitive. So what we're doing is I'm just taking those depth bands off, because I want these openers in combination with the coulter cart in front to really get down through this corn residue. So if those coulter cart discs in front make a good path through the corn residue, I want every opportunity for these to get down in the soil. I was even thinking about taking these press wheels off and then having this thing really be able to push that cereal rye seed down into the corn residue, but I think I'm going to leave them on for now, and if I have to take them off, I will. But for now, they can stay. So that's what I'm working on today. We have a to-do list on the farm that's about a mile long, because normally we would have cleaned up and put equipment away right after harvest, but when that snow came in the cold, we just didn't want to be outside working on anything, and it seemed like it would probably warm up and get better, so we just kind of hunkered down for a little bit and took it easy, and focused on other life stuff that was important and had been put off during the harvest season. So now we're kind of back into focus mode for about the next week and a half, and we're gonna see what we can crank out. It's times like this when I'm laying on the ground under a grain drill trying to fix something, and I think to myself, maybe banking would have been the thing to do. And just like that, all the depth bands are removed. That guy had a bad bearing, so we did away with him. He's done. All right, folks, I'm back. It's Sunday, November 1st, the day after Halloween. And I've been busy here at the farm all day. It's late afternoon now. It's after 3 o'clock, but we haven't been doing anything real consequential, so it wasn't good fodder for filming. And now we're gonna get the no-till drill calibrated. I got all the depth bands removed from it yesterday, so we're gonna try to get that calibrated quick. And then once that's done, I may still go out today and plant a little bit. All right, folks, here we go. Seed and cover crops into corn stalks. I've had my doubts about whether we get this done, but I think we're gonna pull it off. I'm certainly not gonna get done tonight, but I can tell you that it's going well. It's a good test run. I'm gonna get the headlands and some initial passes done on this 8-acre field. And then it's already, I forgot about daylight savings time, so it's going to be getting dark here pretty soon. So I'm just going to kind of get some initial work here under my belt. And it's going to be kind of not a very nice day tomorrow, but Dad can do some of the seeding if I'm not around, and then I can finish it up. We've got 26 acres to do. It's going to take us 2 full days. So since I'm starting kind of late here today, I'm not going to get much done, but that's how much time we have to figure we're going to invest. I know that there's some spots where the drill isn't cutting through the residue, so the seed is going to end up just kind of stuck in the corn leaves and the corn stalk bits. But the way I look at it is, anywhere where the ground is uncovered and we want that residue covered, that's where it's going to get the cover crop in. So, of course, we'll have to wait till spring to see what this looks like, but I'm kind of hoping that where the bare ground is, that's where we'll get the best cover crop. And where there's residue, it's not as important. I stopped to hop off the tractor here for a minute. We're going to see how things are kind of looking. So it looks to me like everything's going pretty well. That snow that we got added just enough moisture to the soil that things are a little bit sticky, but at least the coulters are cutting through. And removing the depth bands, I see that my planting units, my row units here, aren't getting caked up with mud, which is the biggest thing when you're in kind of tough conditions. If the row units start to get mud on them, the seed disc openers start to get mud on them, then things get really bad really fast. But I see that my press wheels are mudded up a little bit, but they're still turning, and that's the main thing. If they started to get where they were dragging corn residue, that's when I would need to stop and probably talk about removing them entirely and just letting the seed dribble out. But I like to have them on there because they push the seed into the ground better. Here, if we walk up, kind of you can tell where the corn rows were. When you're picking with a 2-row corn picker, it dumps the corn leaves and trash out the side of the picker. So every other space between 2 corn rows gets a lot of residue. So that's got a lot of corn leaves. And then this is pretty bare, and then this is pretty bare. So this is where I planted already. And you can see there, we're getting a real nice chop through the soil and getting that seed right down to the soil. Where there's heavy residue, not quite as much here, but I'm really kind of hoping maybe some of it'll get buried in the leaves, and if it gets enough moisture, it'll germinate, and maybe the roots will go down and find the soil. And there's certainly patches everywhere you look. Like here, you know, it's a heavy residue area, but you'll get patches of soil where the seed gets down. So, and I was kind of wondering how easy it would be to see where we've been, but you can see pretty easily where the dividing line is. That's right where the drill stopped. So I can find my previous planting pass pretty easily and stay next to it, because we don't want to miss areas and we don't want to overseed areas. So anyway, that's just it. I'm gonna go with this for a little bit longer, and then it'll be time to go in for supper, and then it'll be dark. And I don't think, and it's cold, it's really cold, so I don't think I'm gonna try to push this too hard when we have nicer days coming. Yeah, I just checked the time right now, and it's 5:15, so 6 o'clock is supper time in the Seifert household. So I'm gonna get back at it. Probably be half frozen by the time 6 o'clock comes around, but I'll have all the headlands covered and a little bit of the main passes done. It's Tuesday out on the farm here, election day, and Dad is seeding in cover crops into the corn stalk residue. I started this job the other day and took some video for you guys, and then I said I'd be back out Wednesday to finish it up. I wanted Dad to leave me a little bit to do here because we left some area in this field with corn stalks. I don't know if you can see that. We left corn stalks standing and didn't stalk chop them. The area that I'm in, we did stalk chop, and we want to see if there's any difference in how the cover crops do if we seed it into ground that's already had the stalk chopping done versus the ground that hasn't. So I wanted to seed that portion in, and I wanted to finish it up. But Dad has been going, he did a little bit yesterday, and he's doing a bunch more today. It's important that we get done, so I like to have control of this regenerative stuff, but I have to relinquish it every once in a while and let him get his turn too. So that's only fair. I know he gets excited about it, and this is different than the way we used to do things, so he's got to have his shot. One interesting note here you're going to observe, we picked up a very reasonably priced set of duals for the 686. We used to have a set of duals. They're actually the same tire size as would go on like our Farmall M, so they're a little narrower tires than the main back tires on the 686. But we were looking for new rubber for those duals that we already had, and of course everything's really expensive. And we just happened upon this deal on Craigslist for a set of duals for like $300 with fairly decent tires already on, identical to the set we already had. So we picked those up, and Dad put them on yesterday, and classic Dad, he sent me a text message last night and said, I put the duals on the 686 today. It looks really beefy. Well, the 686 is a fairly light tractor. It's hard to describe it as beefy, but I agree with him. It's got some shoulders. It's been working out. So I'll get another shot here. Olivia's riding with him, of him coming by. And we're getting it done here. We're gonna have all our cover crops in, and I'm very pleased about that. It's 76 degrees today. What a turnaround from snow and cold. But I'll tell you, in just a few days, it's supposed to go back down. So we got to get her done while we have the time.
Filling up the drill.
All right, it's Wednesday. Got the drill filled up. Tractor's ready to go. I'm gonna try to get this job done today. Tearing up the field road. Those no-till coulters don't raise up very high. I got these huge shoulders. Yeah, baby. Duals on the 686 might be one of my favorite things of 2020. So Dad asked me to start the morning by drilling in this area with the corn stalks, which isn't a huge area. It's maybe 3-4 acres. Because then he wants to come in and chop this with the stalk chopper and be able to put that away. So I'm gonna do that. I'm kind of looking at the lay of the corn here because it's probably better to go with the way the corn stalks are tipped. I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter, but probably overthinking it like I usually do. I'm headed to the co-op to get 1 bag of cereal rye seed. Of course, we ran short with about 16 feet left to go in the field between the sections that I'd already done. And at first Dad and I said, well, what the heck, that's not that much, we'll just leave it. And then I was gonna clean up the drill and vacuum it out and get it ready to put away, and I thought, oh darn it, I'm just not gonna be able to look at that because we're gonna plant beans green into that rye next spring, and then we're gonna let that rye grow like we did this year with our one field that was so good by the driveway. And then I thought, I'm gonna have to be staring at that strip in that field with nothing growing in it for, you know, from now until mid to late June. So that just didn't sit right with me. So our local co-op never carried winter rye seed before, but I gave them a call, kind of banking on the idea that it's picking up enough popularity that they would want to get in on the game. And what do you know, they got 40 bags there, so I need 1, so that's not a big deal. So I'm gonna go pick that up and we're gonna finish that out. and I won't have to stare at that strip. That little side trip didn't work out like I planned. Not only did they not have a bag of cereal rye at the co-op, they couldn't even figure out who I talked to that told me that they did. So I drove over there for nothing. Usually you make that phone call in advance to avoid that circumstance, but in this case it didn't work.